Then, more to mention about midfielders, I wanted to take a minute, guys, to talk about Bruno Guimarães. Because on Bruno Guimarães, I've been telling you everything over the recent weeks, and my position remains absolutely clear. Arsenal want Bruno Guimarães. Let's enter into all the details on every single side of this story. First detail, what happened so far? Newcastle and Arsenal have been in contact about the story of Bruno Guimarães. Arsenal opening bid was 55 million pounds, rejected by Newcastle. Then Arsenal last week indicated to Newcastle via the agents of the player that they were ready to reach 65 million pounds, but Newcastle still closing doors to this possibility. So no to 55 million pounds bid, no to the suggestion to offer 65 million pounds. Then what happened? My understanding is on player side, Bruno Guimarães wants to go to Arsenal. Bruno Guimarães has clear desire to go to Arsenal, and personal terms would not be an issue. So Bruno wants to go to London and wants to go to Arsenal. Then Bruno Guimarães, from what I understand, didn't tell Newcastle something in an Alexander Isak story style like 1 year ago. Sell me or I'm not gonna stay here. Bruno Guimarães wants to be respectful with Newcastle. If Newcastle can reach an agreement with Arsenal, Bruno will be happy to go to Arsenal. If this doesn't happen, Bruno Guimarães will not create problems to Newcastle. So it's a different attitude by Bruno. Bruno is not saying, sell me or I'm gonna create issues. That's really important to mention. But Bruno wants to go to Arsenal. And now what's gonna happen next? My understanding, sources involved and close to the story say that a transfer fee, maybe around 90 million pounds, could be the beginning of the discussion. Arsenal, from my understanding, are not offering 90 million pounds, at least at this stage, so has to be negotiated. We have to see now if, from the starting point, 55, then eventual 65 million pounds, and the magic number in this case, 90 million pounds, if in this range, Newcastle and Arsenal can try to reach an agreement. This depends on Newcastle, because Newcastle want to keep the player, but Bruno has this desire to go to Arsenal, and this depends also on Arsenal, because for sure they have to improve the 55 million pounds official bid, but also the suggested 65 million pounds bid will not be enough. So an extra proposal would be needed to make the deal happen. But that's the story for Bruno Guimarães. Arsenal are there, and let me mention one name also here, a coach, Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta is pushing and pushing and pushing to get Bruno Guimarães. Mikel Arteta has always been a big fan of Bruno, since years ago. This is not the first time Arsenal are linked with Bruno Guimarães. Why? Because Mikel Arteta is driving this interest, is a big fan of Bruno. Now, again, it depends on club to club, but 55 million pounds, no. 65 million pounds suggested, not in paper, not enough. Newcastle would open doors around 90 million pounds. Arsenal are not offering that. In this range, around 65 and 90, in the middle, they could try to find a solution, if Newcastle won't. Otherwise, Bruno will respect that, but Bruno made clear that he wants to go to Arsenal. So that's the situation around one of the most wanted players in the market right now, Bruno Guimarães.
Well, Gooners, let's get straight into today's news, because David Ornstein has just confirmed that an Arsenal transfer is ready to happen. And the only question now is whether Andrea Berta will make the decisive move to get the deal over the line. Let's jump straight into the first story, because David Ornstein, the most trusted voice in English football transfer journalism, has just gone on record with a statement about Christos Tzolis that every Arsenal fan needs to hear word for word. Speaking about Arsenal's summer business, Ornstein was characteristically measured but unmistakably clear. Arsenal are heading into this summer in a position of strength, and that's a great place to be. They're Premier League champions, they reached the Champions League final, their squad is in good shape, they do want to add to it. It's harder when you get to such a high level, and I think they want to add real quality to what they've already got. And definitely that will come in the attacking third of the pitch. Clearly that left-sided attack is an area of great focus, and we've reported that Christos Tzolis at Club Brugge is a player that they've held some conversations about. It feels like that one's there to be done if and when Arsenal want to do it. There to be done. From David Ornstein. That is not transfer speculation wrapped in uncertainty. That is a green light from the most reliable journalist in the business. The deal exists. The conversations have happened. The only remaining variable is whether Berta decides the moment is right to formally pull the trigger. The price being discussed is around £35 million. And in the context of a summer where every left-wing target is pushing 100 million or above, that number deserves serious attention. Tzolis is not a risk-free signing. He has never played outside Belgium, and the step up from the Pro League to the Premier League is significant and frequently underestimated. But the numbers he produced at Brugge last season, 22 goals and 29 assists in 52 matches, represent a level of contribution that no amount of league quality discounting can dismiss entirely. That is simply elite production by any standard. The strategic logic is also compelling. Morgan Rogers remains the primary target, but Villa's £130 million demand continues to create a genuine stalemate. Barcola's price is heading north after his World Cup performances with France. In that landscape, Tzolis at £35 million as an immediate, practical solution to the left-wing problem, while the bigger deals are negotiated, makes enormous sense. Sign Tzolis now, keep pushing for Rogers in the background, and suddenly the attacking reinforcement that has been missing all summer is in place without breaking the bank prematurely. Ornstein says it is there to be done. That is all the confirmation Berta should need. Get this one over the line and give Arteta the left-wing option he has been desperate for since the window opened. So Gooners, at £35 million, do you want Arsenal to do the Tzolis deal immediately, or would you rather Berta hold the budget and wait for Rogers? Drop your verdict now. Now let's talk about Hilbert Mora, because Arsenal have already submitted an opening offer for the 17-year-old Mexican sensation, and the endorsements coming in about this player from some of football's greatest names should make every single Gooner pay very close attention. According to Mexican outlet Azteca Puebla, Arsenal have registered their interest with Club Tijuana and submitted an opening offer worth approximately £19 million. That offer is expected to be rejected. Previous reports suggest it could take up to £34 million to prize Mora away from Mexico. But the very fact that an offer has already been submitted tells you Berta has moved past the interest stage and into genuine negotiation. This is no longer a name on a scouting list. This is an active pursuit. And when you understand what people inside football are saying about Mora, the urgency behind that move becomes completely understandable. UEFA licensed coach John Walker has described him as a little genius with the highest level of ball mastery to maneuver out of tight spaces. Comparisons have been drawn to the great Andres Iniesta, one of the finest technical midfielders in the history of the game. And then there is the most significant endorsement of all, delivered live during the World Cup by none other than Thierry Henry himself. There he is, Mora. Let's not forget this kid playing in midfield, at times controlling the game, understanding that sometimes he had to slow it down and not go to the counter-attack so soon, getting fouls. When the greatest player in Arsenal's history pauses a World Cup broadcast to point out a 17-year-old Mexican midfielder, you do not ignore it. The data backs the hyperbole up emphatically. At the World Cup, Mora ranks among the finest 11% of positionally similar players for shots per 90 minutes and touches in the opposition box, and among the best 7% for chances created. Those are elite percentile rankings for any player at any age. For a 17-year-old making his World Cup debut, they are almost incomprehensible. He has already made 12 senior international appearances for Mexico before turning 18, a pace of development that signals a player operating well beyond his years in every measurable dimension. The Rogers comparison that keeps emerging is the most instructive one for understanding Mora's profile and Arsenal's interest. Rogers is more physically powerful, a genuine athletic presence who can dominate defensively and hold the ball under pressure. Mora is slender and more delicate, but possesses a technical mastery and a vision that arguably exceeds Rogers in the pure creative sense. At £34 million, with a release clause making the deal structurally clean, this could be the most exciting low-cost addition Arsenal make in any summer window for years. If Henry is watching and nodding, so should Berta. So Gooners, is £34 million the right price for Hilbert Mora, or do you think Arsenal should hold back and wait to see how his World Cup ends before committing? Tell me everything in the comments. All right, Gooners, hit that subscribe button right now if you are not already part of this family. It is completely free and you will get every single Arsenal update the moment it breaks. Transfers, team news, World Cup updates, everything. Until next time, Gooners. Come on, you Gunners.